Welcome to the photosynthesis lab, plant diversity photosynthesis lab. So your walkthrough this time, this is actually one of the labs that may be easier to do online than in person. But so what you've got here this time is the usual. So you've got the walkthrough. Um, the lab handouts are right here. When you click on that, you get to the lab handouts, and I want to point out to you this activity button that's different from usually. Um, but there's the lecture, which tells you a little bit about what plants are, the different groups of plants that we have, mosses, gymnosperms, and angiosperms, those kinds of things. And then the activity, what we do, there's a couple of different activities you're going to do. The main thing and the most difficult one is going to be the photosynthesis. So watch the demonstration video. PowerPoints, as usually, are found in that same link as before. The plants you have to look at, you'll find those in here on the Google site. So on the Google site, there's lots of different information. There's videos that if they don't play in the presentation, you'll see them here in the lecture demo presentation. And then the things that you would normally see in person, there are pictures of them right here. So this is where you're going to find all the information you need to fill out the different forms that you've got. And there's a similar site for photosynthesis that teaches you, it shows you again the video, how the experiment works. And then there's a couple of other examples of the experiments, and basically how, it shows you different experiments, how photosynthesis works. And then what you're going to do is you've got a lecture quiz as usually. There's a Labster activity. And then you're going to fill out the question set, which is going to be found in the form of a quiz. And that's basically it. Now, the last thing I wanted to point out to you, which is new this year, and I wanted to give you that as an option, as something you can do. Let me go in there. So in this activity, there is an Excel sheet, and this Excel sheet, you're going to have to download it because you can't actually use it straight up from there because it won't work that way. And I've got the sheet right here. So what this sheet does, it's basically, and you're going to have to enable macros in order for it to work. And what this sheet does, basically, it allows you to do the experiment, to do the photosynthesis experiment and see what happens. So what you do there, and I explained the setup. The setup is explained in the lab manual, but I want to just show you what this thing does. So you click on this button to add CO2, and the way we add CO2 in the lab is by literally blowing into the tube with a straw. And so that's what's shown here. Literally you're blowing into the tube with the straw. And when you blow into the tube, you add CO2, and CO2 is slightly acidic. So it's going to change the pH of this tube. In this tube is a pH indicator called phenol red, and so it'll turn, if you add CO2 to it, it'll turn colors. It'll turn all the way up to yellow. 50 here is a good number. And you see how as the CO2 increases, the color changes, and that would be happening in real life too. And then here you do the same thing. If this is an experiment, you want to add the same amount, and it'll change color the same way. And then if you want to add the plant, you add the plant right here, which comes from right over there. And then you do this whole setup. When the whole thing is set up, this where it says setup incomplete, it'll turn to setup complete. And then you can go to the incubation worksheet where you can then incubate it and see what happens when you incubate it. So try this out, see if it'll help. It's something I made new this year in hopes to basically have you experience what this looks like when this experiment is actually done. And that is, I believe, pretty much it for this unit. So, yeah, hope you have some fun with it.